Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of DAX Machina. Joining me in the studio tonight is Robbie Rip Rains. Doc won't be here tonight, and Steve has to work, so it's just going to be the two of us tonight. And we could be talking about horror movies that have some basis in reality. I suppose every story's got a little bit of basis in reality at some point, but we're talking horror movies that are based on actual events. So hope you guys are pop some popcorn and make sure the door's locked and grab your favorite blanket, because some of these movies surprised us when we found out that they were based on true stories.
Yeah. We were both like, what? Really? So we'll pull that.
How you been, brother? You doing all right?
Good. Been going good. How you been?
I'm getting by, I suppose.
Or as I say in Louisiana, how y'all are?
That's funny. When we decided to start looking into some of these movies that are based on true stories, I didn't expect to find as many as I did. And the more I look, the more I keep finding. Of course, we've got all the obvious ones, like we know Legend of Boggy Creek is based on a true story, and there are a few other Bigfoot stories like The Untold, which is supposed to be based on a true story. But not all of these are cryptid related movies. Some of them are just plain good old fashioned horror films.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll just jump in the middle of that. But before we do, I want to say happy birthday to Pat Kennedy, who's in the chat tonight, and also say happy birthday to a buddy of mine, Greg Price, who it's his birthday as well today. Hope you're watching, Greg. I was going to say something else and completely slipped my mind. I'll probably think of it at some point, but
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, I do too. So, which movie would you like to talk about first?
Well, do you want to do some of the obvious ones, or you want to go obscure first?
Whichever one. Just pick one that you liked, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Jose Alvarado just joined the channel. Welcome to the channel, man. Thank you for being here.
And there's a lot of them that we can throw in with this one, but the ones in the Conjuring series, for me, like I said before, those are some of the movies that kind of scared me the most, because all that stuff's real. That really happens, and we know that stuff happens. But I really enjoyed all the Conjuring movies. I wasn't so up on the Annabelle movies, because the creepy little doll just doesn't sit well with me. But I watched them all. I watched all the Conjuring. Watched what was the Haunting in I've seen most all of them. I think the only one that I haven't seen in that series is The Nun, and there again, that she just kind of reminds me of a creepy doll. So.
Well, if it'd been me and I'd had issues with that Annabelle doll, and I would have had an appointment in the backyard with a can of lighter fluid.
Yep. Or as Kentucky Ballistics likes to have, the Chip-O-Matic 5000.
No, I think I just would have burned it up, set it on fire. It
How
kept
about both?
On it until there wasn't nothing but ash left.
How about both?
Yeah, set the wood, get the stuff out of the wood chipper and set that on fire.
Or you build a fire right in front of where it comes out of the chipper. That way they just catch on.
Just sprays fire right into it.
Yep.
I'd be afraid there'd be little pieces left in the wood chipper that it would like cling to, and then I'd have a haunted wood chipper.
That probably is not a good thing.
Have you seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil? No, it ain't.
I was just trying to figure out how to work Tucker and Dale versus Evil into that one. He dove into the wood chipper.
They're killing themselves on my land.
It doesn't matter what happened. What matters is what looks like what happened, and what looks like what happened ain't good.
I love that movie.
That's is will go down as one of my all-time favorite movies and greatest movies in my opinion. There's just, but anyway, there we go, getting off the rails again.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't be us if we didn't get off the rails.
Of course. But all the Conjuring, and what was the name of the couple that did all?
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
That's right, Warrens. I couldn't remember that for nothing. But that all these stories, and there's been some kind of or some controversy over some of them, saying some of them were not as true as they claimed they were, and they added some stories that didn't even happen. But here's the thing: they all have some, like you just said earlier, they all have some element of truth to them. So to get to movie status from what actually happened, you've got to, I mean, it's just like Lone Survivor and American Sniper. Those movies were probably some of the better tellings of true tales, and there's still stuff that has to be added. And there's still stuff that has to be taken away. Because I've watched many interviews from Mark Luttrell, who says you could make a 5.5-hour movie just on the fall down the hill. Because he said they felt like
that whole scene was brutal.
Yeah, and he said that as brutal as that was on scene, it was 10 times that in the real thing. He said that would have been 5 hours worth of the movie right there. Just that the battle and them falling down the hill took so long, so brutal. So
any story is going to have to be changed for Hollywood's constraints. They've got to make sure the movies keeps a certain pace. They've got to keep a certain level of excitement to keep the audience interested. So they're going to take liberties. But and sometimes when they say based on a true story, they should really, really saying very, very loosely based on a true story. But some of these don't seem to be as loosely as we thought.
That's why I think inspired works so much better in those situations, because inspired just means, hey, something happened vaguely similar to this, but we just put our spin on it.
Right.
When you say based, most people think, okay, well, this is what happened. This is a even use the word grandiose retelling of the story, but people kind of expect it, but they expect it to be still the basic story. So if you say inspired, I think it doesn't lend that element of or not disbelief. What is it? How am I trying to put it?
Suspension of disbelief?
No, not just people are not going to buy into it as much as saying, okay, this is basically the story. They're just going to say, oh, okay, well, the story's somewhere in there. They just it doesn't set it up for a failure, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Not so much failure, but it doesn't set it up as a true retelling, or this is exactly what happened, or this is just, hey, this is a story that we're putting together that is loosely inspired by some things that happen closely resembling that.
Exactly.
Any Sentinels in the house?
Yep, I saw him.
Sentinel in the house.
Did you know Silence of the Lambs has a basis in reality?
Yep, I just read that. That's why I said that's the one I was looking at when I said, do you want to go obscure or do you want to...
Well, Thomas Harris created the character, created the character of Hannibal Lecter. But for the character Buffalo Bill, he drew on several real-world serial killers, and you combined aspects of real serial killers to create Buffalo Bill. Jerry Brudos, Ted Bundy, Gary Heidnik, Edmund Kemper, and Gary Ridgway.
Well, you can look at the Buffalo Bill character and see the Dahmer influence.
Oh yeah,
I think that influence, that was the one that shone through to me. Obviously, the rest of them in different ways, but the van, the way he acted, how he was with the police when the police come and talk to him, all that was Dahmer in my estimation. I mean, it was just, and the guy who played Buffalo Bill, I can't think of that guy's name. He's been in a bunch. He's been in a couple of Van Damme movies as a bad guy, but Ted
Levine.
Yeah.
I knew I'd think of it.
he I would not have wanted that part for nothing in the world, but he played that part very well.
He did. He was creepy in that.
Yes, he was.
Casey Calloway says Hannibal Lecter is my wife's favorite. My wife doesn't like the Hannibal Lecter movies because the movies that could be true scare the crap out of her because there could be somebody out there like that. But I've always found Lecter to be fascinating. I love the Thomas Harris novels. I think he's a fantastic writer. Um, when I was reading the Thomas Harris novels, I believe it's mentioned in the book Hannibal that how smart Hannibal Lecter is, and that it was talking about his favorite piece of music which is the Brandenburg concertos, and I was like, oh crap, that's like my favorite piece of music.
Hannibal DA.
There we go.
So that one kind of surprised me, but that there again, that to me is, like you said, that's more of it's a conglomeration. He took a bunch. It's not based on an actual. It's based on or inspired by events that happened, but none of those events were related. He just took a bunch of different serial killers, combined them into one, and then made a fictional situation. I think that's it's a safer way to go as far as because you're not held to any kind of standard as far as you didn't tell the story right. He just kind of, the story itself was made up but the character was based on actual people. So
Attilio Pampanin says Hannibal was based on a true story from Baltimore. The head and the jug guy was from Philly. Thomas Harris really did his research. Yeah, I think what makes the Silence of the Lambs and the other Hannibal Lecter books, I think what makes them so really terrifying, and the movies really did a good job of capturing the essence of the books. But I've always liked books better than movies. I might be a little biased though, but I think what made them so terrifying is the plausibility of them.
Yep. Well, while we're talking about smart killers, Zodiac.
They never caught him. Makes you
Still
wonder
out
if he's still alive out there somewhere. If he was, he'd probably be in his 70s or 80s by now.
Yep. But that's one where the movie was not as far off from what really happened as a lot of movies are. I mean, obviously there was a few things that they took liberties with, but I mean that was, for the most part, that was pretty much what happened. He was daring the police to catch him. I mean, he was.
Oh yeah.
He was.
Well, he'd sent clues and taunting letters. I mean, but they never got close to the guy.
And I don't know how much the reporter part that Gyllenhaal played. I don't know how close that was to
I'd
the
say
real.
part of it probably had to be dramatized, but there may be some truth to it.
But as far as the way he acted and the way he reacted with or interacted with law enforcement, all that was, pretty close to spot on.
Cryptid of the Corn says Zodiac's still alive and has a podcast. Mark Napier says the Phantom Killer, Texarkana. We'll get to that one. There's a movie about that one too. We'll get to that one here shortly. But Zodiac, I think, even knowing what I did know about the case, which granted isn't probably as much as some people know, because I've never really been that big of a student of serial killers. They just, real word crazy freaks me out, so I don't read about it as much as I might have. But knowing Zodiac was a real thing and watching that movie made that movie all the more kind of terrifying, especially knowing that guy was never caught.
Well, speaking of serial killers, well, if I say the name Ed Gein, or however you pronounce it, Gene, I think it's
Gein.
Do you know what movie that comes from, or does anybody in the chat know what movie that comes from? Do, 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 do. Nope, not Psycho. Oh,
You wanna let them know?
Let me give him one hint. He loved to make masks. There you go, Brandy. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
There you go.
And I am, indeed, I will tell you, I am a horror aficionado. I'm a horror fan. I love horror movies. I've seen every Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, every werewolf movie, vampire movie. I've watched them all. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I've watched the original one time, and I have not watched any of the rest of them because that movie scares me because it scares me because of the movie itself. That movie scares me because what DA just said. This was loosely based on stuff that really happened in Texas.
Apparently, you can go visit that place too.
No, thank you. Would you look at the time?
Gonna take a big old pass on that one, huh?
I will go if Doc brings his belt fed. Because if I hear any coming out of that house, I'm gonna re-air condition it.
Gonna punch a lot of holes for ventilation.
But the stuff like that, and I've said it before, things like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Saw, any of those, even the Conjuring movies, those movies, they make you step back and think because that's not just fantastical. I mean, the chances of something like Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees happening or Chucky, that's astronomical. That any of that kind of stuff is going to be out there. But somebody smart enough to do some stuff that Jigsaw did or some stuff that Hannibal Lecter did, that's real world stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that scares me. No, Howley Wolf, I have not seen it yet. I am waiting for it to come out on streaming, and I'm which I don't know. I hadn't checked in a while. It may be. Yes, 3D. I will be pumping the 458 SOCOMs into the building while Doc mows it or ventilates it. Yes, Tombs. I've watched Wolf Creek. That's a kind of a sick and demented movie. But on that, not that same note, because it's not animal horror, but I told DA that, and because we just found out another movie on these lists that is loosely based on real activities is Backcountry, which if you have not seen that movie, DA said he hadn't seen it. He needs to go see it. If you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. That movie is pretty good for a shoestring budget movie, let's say. Basic premise: couple goes camping out in Ontario, and there's a black bear that's, I don't know if it's got some kind of, I can't remember, it's got a disease or what, but it is on a rampage, and it's basically them the bear chasing them through the backcountry, and them trying to get away. It's a great movie.
I can't wait to watch it. That sounds like right up my alley.
Yeah, it's good.
Kind of like Cocaine Bear. Again, based on a true story.
Loosely. That's like that's almost like have you heard Dolly Parton tell the joke about the bear that they had in Sevierville? She was on one of the late night shows. I can't remember which one it was, but Dolly and Dolly voice is just telling this story. She's like, yeah, they had this bear down there, and it was on display in Sevierville. And these boys, they just being boys, but they went over there and they poured gasoline on that bear, and it made the bear mad. It broke out, and it took off running. And it run down the road. It was running towards Pigeon Forge, and all of a sudden, it just fell over dead. And the coach was like, or the host was like, oh my God, that's awful. What happened? He said, well, we ran out of gas. Wah, 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 wah. But she was just so stone-faced telling that story. And he just completely lost the fact that she said he poured gas on him and he took off running down the road and he stopped and fell over dead. What happened to him? He ran out of gas.
That's an old joke.
Yeah, but you just don't expect that coming out of Dolly Parton.
Very true.
Let's see. What's another one here?
There's one that kind of surprised me. Well, actually, I met the guy at the Ozark Mountain Ozark Mountain UFO conference like 4 or 5 years ago. It might have been longer than that. The Travis Walton story, the movie Fire in the Sky,
Yeah,
about the alien abduction. That's based on a true story. I
That's a
met
pretty good
Travis
movie.
Walton.
that's a pretty
He's
good
a
movie.
pretty nice guy. But that scene in that movie where they put that freaking needle through his eye, I freak out every time.
Yeah, I don't like that one. There's a lot of these on here that I don't even have not heard of. Obviously, I knew the Black Dahlia was based on or inspired by real events. That was about the ballerina, I think.
Yeah,
Or
the woman that was killed, they found her
Yeah.
dismembered in Hollywood. Lil Patty wants to know if you've seen Winchester.
Winchester. I don't know if I have or
I don't
not.
think I've seen that one.
What's it about?
I don't think I've seen it.
I can't. That doesn't ring a bell.
Is it about the Winchester Mystery House? Because Stephen King wrote a story that was loosely based on the Winchester Mystery House. It's called Rose Red. That movie's freaking terrifying.
Speaking of terrifying movies that are based on real life events, The Hills Have Eyes.
That is a freaking crazy ass movie.
Yeah. But it's a modern classic horror story, but it's inspired by the historic legend of
Sawney Bean.
Sawney Bean, the 16th century Scottish clan head who, along with his cave-dwelling folk, is said to have murdered and cannibalized passerbys. Whew. No, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was familiar with the Sawney Bean story. Yeah, that's just messed up. They would abduct and eat people passing by, travelers. They did it for generations until they lived in that cave so long they became so freaking inbred. Basically mutations.
I haven't seen the modern one. I saw the older one with what's his name? What's the guy that was in all them old B movies? He was in not Coming to America, The Golden Child. Just the weird looking guy. I want to say his name was David something or another. Anyway, he was the. Do you remember the movie The Guyver with Mark Hamill, the Japanese kind of anime live action movie?
I don't think I've seen that.
Okay, he played one of the bad guys in that, but I can't. Maybe his name was Michael Berryman. That's it. He was freak because he looked freaky anyway. He had some kind of something wrong with his facial features or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
for him, Marty Feldman with his messed up eyes.
Yeah, but him playing some of those, or playing one of those parts in that movie, there wasn't much makeup that had to be done on that. But here to my biggest fear ever: open water.
The shark movie.
Yeah. To be lost at sea, treading water in the middle of the open ocean, that is beyond terror. I mean, that is. If I was in that situation and I had a gun, I probably would just go ahead right then and there, just because I would not want that. That is just, like I said, that's pure terror in my book. Treading water for endless amount of time.
I would drown because I don't think I could tread water that long. Eric Testament says Jaws is based on real life, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there was an event that happened in New England where these bull sharks were swimming up this creek and ate several people. Yep, Matawan Creek.
It was actually two separate instances. There was a bunch of people that got chewed up in the Jersey Shore, and during that same time, a few people, sharks. A few people got killed in Matawan Creek. More than likely, the ones that got killed in the creek were by a bull shark, but the ones that got killed in the shore were more than likely a great white, because there was a baby great white, or I say baby, it was juvenile, that was caught in a fishing net in some of those brackish waters out there, but it did have human remains in it when they did the necropsy on it. So, but they never caught the sharks that were in the creek, and it for sure killed 2 people, and I think really seriously maimed another. So that was what Peter Benchley read that, and then he was like, so that's as loosely based as you can possibly loosely base something on, because that was several sharks and several attacks, and they were over, one was basically up the creek, and the other was out in the shoreline. So
yes, but those events inspired what is the quintessential shark movie.
Yeah, they inspired it, but for the most part, there was nothing that was in the real attacks that really translated into the movie, other than the fact that they were in Martha's Vineyard, supposedly, or Amity, which was Martha's Vineyard in reality.
Right.
And these happened in the Jersey Shore and Matawan Creek. That's about as close to the only reality that actually came out of it, other than, like DA said, that's what inspired Benchley to write those. And he actually had a lot of remorse for writing that book.
A lot of sharks got killed.
A lot of sharks died because of that book, and then in the movie more than any, because there was a big difference between the book and the movie. If anybody's read the book,
books are fantastic.
Oh yeah,
but for me, I'm always of the opinion that the book's better than the movie.
Yeah, there's no way that they could have put all the stuff in the book in the movie. But if you go back and look at some of these Jawsploitation movies that they've got out, there's one, and I can't remember if it's The Last Shark or one of the other ones, but it actually puts some of the stuff, like the mob theme that was in the book. It actually puts that in the movie, so there's actually a mob connection and tie-in with the mayor. It's pretty freaking hilarious. I mean, it's a terrible movie, but it's the Jaws ripoff that tried to put the stuff in the movie that was in the book that didn't make it into the movie. So it's horrible, but funny at the same time.
Robert Miller mentioned the Legend of Boggy Creek, where the hairy arm comes through with a guy sitting on the toilet. That's also known as the cure for incontinence.
Yep.
Brown pants moment. Yeah. I don't think that old dude had any constipation issues after that. I guarantee, he cleared that and cleared the toilet as well. E.D. Testament says we've had sharks all the way up into St. Louis. They've been finding bull sharks in the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
There was a guy just a few years ago who was fishing near the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi River and caught a 6-foot bull shark.
Oh, they've been found 250, 300 miles upriver in fresh water.
Well, St. Louis is a hell of a lot farther than 250 miles from the Gulf.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying
it's probably 1,500 miles from New Orleans.
And as far as like India and Africa and places like that, they're all over the freshwaters up there, and especially in the Ganges River, and which is what they're called Ganges sharks over there. Same thing, it's bull shark, but you know, in India, that's how they get rid of a lot of their dead, is they just dump them in that river. That's probably one of the nastiest rivers in the world. But
a lot of well-fed crocodiles.
A lot of well-fed crocodiles and a lot of well-fed big bull sharks. I watched one documentary one time, and they pulled a 8-foot, 650-pound bull shark out of the river, and it was like right in the middle of downtown, whatever that city is right there. Is it Bangladesh or Mogadishu? Whatever that big city, it's got the big steps that go right down into the water, where the people will go. What's that crazy tribe? The Agori tribe that is kind of cannibalistic and all that stuff. It's right,
I think so.
Right around where they live, and they pull that thing out of there. I'm like, oh, and there's kids that just go bathe and play in it, which is nasty on top of anything else anyway. But just right there, I mean, 650-pound shark swimming around in this fresh water, just chomping on dead bodies that people throw off. And note to self: never go to visit India.
No kidding. And if so, stay the hell out of the water.
Yeah. Because if the crocs don't get you, the sharks will.
There's a horror film that's based on a true story. And when I was a kid, I remember I was probably 7 or 8 when I talked my mom into letting me watch this movie with her. And it scared the living crap out of me. It gave me nightmares for weeks. But then as soon as it came on again, I wanted to watch it again. And that was the Amityville Horror.
Yep. I remember watching that as a kid too.
Yeah, there are people that claim that the story about Amityville is made up, but there are certain things about that case that are indisputable. The DeFeo family was murdered in that house. And the priest that tried to bless the house went to his grave swearing he was run out. The family that first moved in there after the DeFeos, that's got to be like the worst real estate lie in history, to not disclose the fact that an entire family had been shotgunned to death in that house. They were getting a really good deal on this house. I wonder why.
No, just it's what you call what do you call it? A shotgun sale?
Yeah, fire sale.
Fire sale.
But that movie, the scene where the little kid sees the little kid's talking to his friend, and she asks, "Where's he at?" She goes, "Well, you scared him. He's outside." And she looks out the window, and there's those 2 pig guys looking in the window. Dude, I got freaked out.
What was it when he was down in the basement and he got pulled into that? Oh,
yeah.
That's the scene that got me.
That movie will still give me the heebie-jeebies even to this day. JD Smooth says they found a new species of shark in Mammoth Cave. Holy crap. An underground shark? I did not know that. I'm going to have to look that up.
I hadn't heard that.
That's terrifying.
So, are you saying that Open Water 3 is a real thing?
Very well could. These sharks that have adapted to total darkness.
Because that's what that completely blind great whites that lived in that cave system underground, basically.
Yeah, the thing is what did those sharks eat? If they were in a contained cave system,
whatever they bumped into, I guess that's why they were going after the people so much.
Yeah, they're like starving to death.
They're pretty big for starving sharks.
Yeah, they were. That was a pretty good movie. It really was.
It actually wasn't too bad. It was better than the second one, I thought. The second one, to me, I liked the first one. The second one was kind of like, okay, it's basically the first one again, just with a few different parameters. So I kind of like the way they went kind of off the rails a little bit and just went totally different. but the first one was just nightmare fuel for me. I mean, I just
Yeah. My old Lieutenant James Jenkins says Amityville Horror was a great movie. I read the book and had a 45 record playing over and over because I didn't want to stop reading. To this day, when I hear the song by the Cars, I think of the book. I never could read if I had music playing. KC Calloway says, DA, they're related to those sharks with the tattoos in your book.
yeah, the German sharks.
Yeah. That character is going to make a return appearance in the next Wild Hunt book.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Along with a few others.
Haliwa Wolf says that Robbie Raines, don't forget 47 meters uncaged.
Yeah, that's number 2. That's the second one.
Sharks freak me out, man. I'm out of my element.
Maybe that's the third one. The first one was 48 meters. Anyway, the one where they were in the cave was with the blind great whites.
What do you think about Amityville Horror? Do you think it was real?
I think so. I've heard way too many things that, like you said, just kind of, I won't say cement it, but the just like you said, the priest never changed his story until the day he died. And you hear so many times that people, on their deathbed, they confess to this was a hoax and all that stuff. And I mean, this is a priest. This is somebody who, that's goes to his core values, and for him to go to his grave proclaiming that that's true, I don't think he was going to get where he wanted to go if he'd have held on to a lie. And he knew that.
And he's a priest. I mean, why would he lie about it in the first place?
Yeah. Because it's not like
he was joining us. Hey, how you doing?
He was making any money out of it.
No sound. Hang on.
I hear. We can hear you.
There she is.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Woohoo!
So, Toombs, if that was the second one, was that the one where they were in the cave? Or is that the one where it was just out of the cage and kind of free diving? I know the one when they were in like Mexico or whatever, a different country or whatever. The one that had Sylvester Stallone's daughter in it was the one with the blind sharks.
Yeah. K-Talk says, I think Amityville was sensationalized, like you were saying earlier. Some of the later stuff might have been a bit faked. I think the first movie was the one that was based on what happened, and the other movies were just cashing in on the name Amityville Horror, because there was one that was like Amityville, the possession, and it was like items that had been sold out of the house were causing havoc in other places. So yeah, they got a little far-fetched as the Amityvilles progressed. But I think the first Amityville Horror was probably closest to what really happened. What do you think, Miss Neoma?
I think that when I was however old when that movie came out, I had just moved downstairs to the basement to my sister's bedroom, and I decided to read the book, and I think that book scarred me for life. And I think it was probably 2 or 3 years later before I actually saw the movie and was deeply disappointed in it.
The book was way better than the movie.
Yeah.
But the movie was still pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a good movie, but man, did that book scar me for life.
I would say Amityville scarred me as well, because I was still little when I talked my mom into letting me watch it with her.
Yeah.
I had to watch the movie first. That way you're not let down after you read the book.
Right.
I had an unreasonable fear of our basement when I was growing up, and moving down there was a huge, huge step forward for me, I suppose. But then to choose the first book that I read once I moved into that bedroom to be Amityville Horror was incredibly stupid. So what are you going to do?
We when we lived in Lebanon, we lived on Monroe Street, and a house right on the corner. And we had it wasn't really a basement, but it was a lot more like a root cellar because it wasn't under the house. But you actually got into it from inside the house. You went down steps, and it was this concreted over area outside the house. That place always freaked me out as a kid, and our dog would not go anywhere near the steps.
Wow.
Just refused.
There's a really cool story in my hometown of Milan, Illinois, about, and I can remember when it happened. The Little League ballpark was at the time on two sides. It had cornfields, and I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with movies. My bad. I
That's
shouldn't
all
have
right.
gone.
We digress all the time, so go right
Well,
ahead.
I'll make this quick. Anyway, a little boy was playing along in the cornfields, and unfortunately it was harvest time, and the farmer didn't see him, and the boy was killed by the combine, which is a really sad story. That's not really cool, but the part that's always been interesting is that there was a second boy in a red shirt, and several people saw him. So everybody asked. They spent days looking for this second boy in the red shirt. They never found him. That nobody even ever turned in a report that they were missing a little boy in a red shirt. There weren't any little boys that came up missing at all, but several people saw the little boy being beckoned into the woods by the boy in the red shirt. The thing that I find most interesting about that, I mean, that story is in and of itself fascinating, right? And over the years, many people have reported seeing the boy in the red shirt along the edge of the cornfield. And I mean, to this day, you still get little boy in the red shirt sightings. But if you go back about it'd be about 110 years ago from now, and it would have been about 80 years before that, the land where that cornfield was owned by a farmer who was actually a serial killer. He would hire young hands, young boys to come and work on his farm all summer. And then at the end of the year, when he was supposed to pay them, instead of paying them, he'd kill them, and he'd dump their bodies out on the farm. And I have always had, and what made me think of it is I've always had such a creepy feeling about that particular cornfield. And I'm sure it had a lot to do with the fact that there were probably still a few bodies buried out there that nobody's ever found yet.
Probably
one of them wears a red shirt.
could be.
Could be more than one.
Yep. So I'm sorry, I did not mean to digress so far, but
No, it's still in the horror genre, so we're all good.
yeah. So anyway, what are your Halloween plans as far as movies go this year? Are you going to watch any?
I'm going to be popping in with the guys on the Strange Road.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some Halloween stuff there, and Annette's going to be giving out candy to the trick-or-treaters, and after that, I think we're just probably going to watch something creepy on TV.
Yeah, I'm going to do a show too, and then I've got a whole marathon of movies that I traditionally watch on Halloween.
Well, now thanks to Robbie, I've got to watch Backcountry. So,
well, I'll be watching Jeepers Creepers, and
there's a Bigfoot movie that just came out that I haven't seen, and I was hoping maybe one of the two of you had. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. It just came out this year, I believe, this year or late last year, and it's about a guy who ends up going out in the woods looking for his missing brother.
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard good things about it.
I've seen it.
Is it good?
I remember thinking it was actually...
Yes, that's the one I was telling you about. That's the one that
yeah, that's supposed to be based loosely on a true story.
Yeah, what was the name of that movie? I know it now because we actually talked about it.
Man versus Bigfoot. Miss Lene, we got on it.
Yep.
And maybe I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's as far as like don't watch it and expect any groundbreaking acting, any Emmy
Well, I know
worthy.
it's a low budget film.
Yeah, it's low budget. The acting is not bad, but it's not like stellar either.
Right.
The writing's pretty good, but it's the story that makes this one.
I can forgive mediocre acting if the story's good.
The story is pretty good. I mean, there's things in there you're like, why did they do this? But you got to take it with a grain of salt and just watch it. It's actually not a bad movie. But I watched it and I sent you a message that night and said you need to watch it. It's not bad because it's on Tubi.
I'll have to watch that. Yeah, I've got Tubi. There was another one, another Bigfoot film, Exists. I don't know if that was based on a true story or not. The acting was kind of so in it, but the story was really good. I really liked that one.
Found footage type movie. But yes, that one wasn't bad.
The one that I thought at first you were talking about was the one where they go out. He had a Bigfoot encounter with his father years before.
Mm-hmm.
And then he and his friends go out with the cameras. It's sort of a found footage film. They meet this creepy old man in the woods, and it turns out, I won't tell how it ends because that would be a spoiler, but that's the one I thought you were talking about at first, but
I think I know which one you're talking about. I think I have seen that one.
Yeah.
Big Legend is still one of my favorites.
Big Legend's a good one. And again, the acting's not awesome. There's no real big names in it except for Lance Henriksen at the very end. But
I just
Eric Testman says Grizzly, I think, was based on a true story. Grizzly was basically shot for shot Jaws, just with a bear.
Jaws on land was all Grizzly was. I mean, you got Brody, you got Hooper, and you got Quint. You get the helicopter pilot's Quint. You got the zoologist who's Hooper, and you got the park ranger who's Brody. You got Brody's girlfriend / Brody's wife / the park ranger's girlfriend. You got the crooked park official who's the stand-in for the mayor. I mean, you can just about go character for character and shot for shot.
I think Grizzly was supposed to be a short-faced bear, not an actual grizzly.
Yeah, he even said it in Hooper / it's what's that guy's name? William Jelinki, or anyway, he was in a bunch of movies back then. Yes, I've seen Chupacabra at the Alamo. Unfortunately, I
haven't seen it. Doesn't sound like I need to bother though.
No, I'll suffer through a lot of B movie crap and tell you don't watch it, or it's okay. But
worth watching once.
Yeah, there was a lot of movies during that time that came out that cashed in the animal terror genre or whatever that Jaws created. The only one that I disagree with that they call a Jaws knockoff is Orca. That was not a Jaws knockoff. It's a completely different story. It flipped everything around its end. The killer whale was actually, more or less standing for a person who was wronged. If you think about it, what's his name that played Dumbledore? Richard Harris, is that his name?
Yeah.
That played Noah.
A Man Called Horse.
Yeah. He is basically the bad guy in the movie, but his character arc brings him back around to where he's trying to save everybody and get them away and sacrifice himself in the end. It's, in my opinion, nowhere near Jaws, but Grizzly, shot for shot, rip off of Jaws, just Jaws on land.
Eric Testman says killer whales are attacking people now. That movie may not have been far off. Yeah, killer whales are extremely intelligent.
Yeah, this killer whale had a reason to attack these people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they gave it I mean, they gave it human reasons because, killer whales mate for life, and they tried to harpoon the female, and they missed and hit it wrong, and it ended up they hauled it up on the shore or up on the boat, and it had a miscarriage, and
The baby died.
Watched his baby be stillborn and died, and they hosed it off the side, and then they gave the whale human motivation, and the whale had human emotions and reacted as a human would. So
Yeah, well,
Trouble is we don't know if they might.
put them
They
in that
are very
situation,
intelligent.
yeah. I don't know that it would know to do some of the things that it did in that movie, but because I don't know that it would know that breaking those pipes to that oil refinery would shut the whole town down and cause them to send him out into the. I mean, that's a little bit far fetched, or breaking the stilts on the house and letting Bo Derek's character roll down the hill so it can
bite her leg off.
Yeah,
That was a great moment.
it was great for visual for the movie, but
Yeah,
probably a stretch for what it would know to do. I mean, there again, we don't know how intelligent they really are, but I don't know that they're that intelligent. Now, it's the part where it's leading them out to sea and taking them to a spot where it wants to have the fight. That part I think is really believable. I think they're easily that smart.
yeah. I think they're pretty smart animals.
And if you think about it, the way it used the ice flow, there wasn't really. This movie came out in 76, I believe, 75, 76. There wasn't really a whole lot of info on this, and now you see them using those ice flows all the time when they're hunting seals and stuff. So
Was that learned behavior, or is it something we just didn't notice before?
It's probably stuff that they had were already doing, and we just didn't know, and that was just a swag, as you say in sniper stuff, scientific wild ass guess that turned out to be right.
Well, I was talking to one of the instructors when I was in the Army. It was an Arctic survival instructor, and was talking about, hey, what kind of stuff do you have to worry about up there? Because I didn't get to go to Arctic survival school, but I did meet one of the instructors, and he said, well, one of the tricks is learning how to gauge your steps when you're crossing ice over water. I said, why is that? He said, because if you walk with a pattern, the killer whales will come up and punch through the ice and eat you.
I'll be darned.
I'm like, well, it doesn't sound like someplace I care to visit then.
Note to self, I'm not going to Arctic survival school.
The big thing, though, is that while you're paying attention to how you're walking across the ice, are you looking at that white blur that turns into a big, tall, hairy beast?
Well, you're up there in that kind of territory. It's literally everything's going to eat you.
Yeah, it is.
Leopard seals, orcas, polar bears.
Yep.
Lila Wolf says, D.A. Roberts, I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's a Bigfoot movie based on real events of a logger and his family being harassed by a Bigfoot to the point that they moved. That sounds familiar.
That actually sounds a lot like the story of Cowboy Man.
Yeah.
They actually picked up
the Cowman of Copalis Beach.
Cowman, not Cowboy Man. I always say Cowboy Man, and I mean Cowman.
Is it? I know that movie. I think I've seen that not too long ago.
You can get on Tubi though. There's 500 Bigfoot movies on Tubi. I mean, if you really get on there and search Bigfoot,
something in the woods.
Yeah, somebody said Wyatt said that.
Oh, Wyatt beat me to it. I was Googling it.
Yeah, something in the woods. Huh.
Good movie.
I'll have to look that one up.
Now, what were you saying, Robbie?
I said, Tubi, you can, if you want to watch a Bigfoot movie. Now, some of them are really low budget and really low hanging fruit, if you know what I mean. But if you get on Tubi and you search Bigfoot movies, you're going to find about 500 of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
they're
problem is with Bigfoot movies, it's like 1 in a dozen or more is worth watching. Most of them
Yeah.
are just really bad.
I can't help it though. I watch them anyway.
well,
I've watched a bunch of the really bad ones.
Yeah.
I watched this guy Brandon Tennell. He's a Canadian guy, and he does reviews of, usually they're like really bad movie reviews, and a lot of B movie stuff. He did a review for Abominable the other day, the one with Matt McCoy in it.
I love that one.
But he was like,
That's a pretty good movie.
yeah, that's what he said. He said, usually, I'm doing stuff like Night of the Demon and Sasquatch and these other crazy Bigfoot movies. He said, but this one was actually good. And he talked about Jeffrey Combs in it, Lance Henriksen's in it, D. Snyder's in it, or D. Wallace Stone.
I was going to say,
I mean, I don't know.
Snyder,
D. Snyder,
the guy from Twisted Sister.
He may be in one of the Bigfoot costumes. Who knows?
He could have been.
The hair kind of favors some of it, but the guy from the vice principal from the Breakfast Club's in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's actually a really, and he said some stuff on there that I didn't know. Like the guy who directed it, his dad was like a famous musician that did a lot of scores for a lot of really, really like famous movies. I can't remember because it was like a week ago that I watched this, but there was some like really famous movies, and he actually did the score for that. And I'm like, talk about having your dad hook you up on something.
No kidding. Spiritual, he gave us a super chat. Said,
the
Birds, Helter Skelter, and Citizen X. The Birds is a creepy movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen Citizen X though.
Yes, Nim. So that's probably why I was thinking about that. D. Snyder did make and strange is the operative word in that title, because that was a weird movie.
One of my favorites of all time. And it scares me more than most movies. And people are always like, oh, that movie isn't that scary. For a parent, that movie is terrifying.
Which one?
Strangeland.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah, because it's about, I guess, internet stalking, or not internet stalking, but he
uses the internet to get his victims. And
Northwoods, Serpent and the Rainbow, that was a movie that scared me as a kid.
That movie is terrifying.
That movie is freaky as hell, and it scared the living daylights out of me.
Spiritual Odyssey says Citizen X is the true story about a Russian serial killer. I'm going to have to find that one and watch it. That sounds like it'd be right up my alley.
I wonder if it's oh gosh, what's his name? I can see his face perfectly.
Maximum Overdrive. That wasn't scary. That was just that was Stephen King on cocaine. Directing that movie. That's
very much so.
Because that movie was out there.
Yeah, it was.
And Lisa Simpson is in that movie. Or the girl who voices Lisa Simpson. She's a little
Chikatilo. I wonder if that Citizen X is about Chikatilo. I'm sorry. Yeah, Lisa Simpson's I can't think of her name either, but she's in that movie.
Yeah, she's the couple that is in the car that just got married.
Yeah.
She's the bride that's in that car and got that little bubblegum voice.
Uh-huh. It still does to this day.
Yeah, that was a strange. I mean, not based on any real world events that we know of, but I mean that's kind of like I think The Happening was a modern day.
Okay.
Not so much a retelling, but just kind of sort of along the same lines of it.
Who said that? That Andre Chikatilo was the Russian serial killer in Citizen X, and he did kill over 50 people. And they say that part of the reason why what mentally destroyed him was the fact that he suffered through the famine, the starvation. It wasn't a natural famine. It was I can say Stalin. Basically, they were taking all of the food that the farmers were making and leaving no food for the farmers. And they began to, his older brother, they think, was a victim of cannibalism. He was out in the yard playing one day, and the next day the neighbors weren't hungry.
Well,
And the big brother was missing.
Speaking of cannibalism and movies based on or inspired by true events, Ravenous, loosely based on the Donner Party.
Yeah.
Donner Pass, excuse me. But that's the same thing, kind of. But that was another freaky movie.
Yeah, definitely was.
Yep. What else?
Oh, there's so many movies that are based on true stories. Well, of course, you've got all of the Ed and Lorraine Warren movies, which there's some
Conjuring
people that
and Annabelle and The Nun, all those things are all rolled into that one. Because they all pretty much
claim the Warrens made a lot of that up. I don't know. I never met the Warrens. I don't really know anything about them. I do know those movies are creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Did you ever see the Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere?
I did. I've seen it.
I never saw it.
Not great, but it's kind of an exploration into what happened there.
It did bring, I think, the Mothman legend a little bit more to a national, because I think it had been sort of a forgotten thing. And
Brandy's bringing up an oldie but a goldie, Critters. I've seen all those movies.
Those were funny so movies. Goofy.
I liked them. I thought they were hilarious.
They were funny.
Yeah.
The first two were really good. They started getting kind of stupid, 3 and 4, but I really liked the first two. I mean, they were you can watch them on YouTube, free, all 4 of them.
Wow. I have to do that someday.
Yeah.
I don't get to watch a lot of movies anymore.
I don't as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Yep. I forgot old Leo was in Critters 3. Maybe that's why I didn't like it.
You don't like Leonardo DiCaprio? Oh, I love him.
Nah, I'm not a big Leo fan. I can't think of a movie that he's been in that other than maybe like I really didn't. I mean, Django Unchained was okay, but I didn't really. That ain't like a movie that I just have to watch.
Got a super chat from KC Calloway. Says, let's start a new fund for DA, a charger fund, so we can get away from the monsters faster or to them. That's funny. That's funny you should say that, because I just saw an ad today in an auto tracker. There's an old boy about 2 hours away from here has a 73 charger for sale. And I was like, said all the parts to restore it. He just doesn't have the time. I was like, oh, classic muscle car. Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Mama of
Mush?
What is it? Yeah. Mama of Mushrooms is not based 100% fact, but like The Wicker Man and Midsummer are based in pagan tradition. Yeah, there's just enough to those to make those kind of creepy.
Yeah. And those two, the older movie and the newer movie could not be further from each other. Of course, the newer one's got Nicolas Cage in it, so it's got to be over the top. But
there's an Australian horror movie that's supposed to be based on a true story that scared the crap out of me. It's called Black Water.
Oh, I thought you were going to something. Wolf Creek is the one I thought you were going to say.
Black Water.
We talked about Wolf Creek earlier, but Black Water is about the rogue. Well, Rogue too. Rogue. It's about a rogue crocodile.
Yeah, Rogue and Blackwater, both awesome flicks. I think Rogue creeped me out more because that thing, the crocodile in Rogue was dang near a sarco. I mean, it was
huge.
It was dang near a dinosaur.
But Blackwater was really close to something that could really happen, and most of that movie took place the people were in a tree.
Yeah,
this thing ran them up a tree and pretty much like stalked them and circled them for what, like a day, 2 days, something like that.
Until people got out there to rescue them.
Pretty cool.
There was another Australian one, and I'm trying to remember what it was called. Razorback, maybe?
Yeah, Razorback was the one. We talked about that one before. That's the one about the big old wild
giant
boar.
hog.
Yeah, killing people. That's a good movie. And I think the director of that worked on Mad Max
I think he did.
On Mad Max.
When my mom was a baby, my grandma was pregnant with her second child, and she was chased through the woods by a razorback, and nearly got her, and ultimately she wound up having a miscarriage and losing. Yeah, the baby.
Yeah, them things ain't nothing to joke with.
No, they're not.
They're nasty animals.
Yes, they are.
I kind of miss the days when they were just open season here in Missouri. You could go out and kill as many of them as you wanted. But the Missouri Department of Conservation's kind of put a crackdown on that because they've come up with a new way to get them. Because you go out, you might shoot 2 or 3 of them, and the rest of them scatter. And they will either start new little family groups, or they'll eventually get back together and go back to doing exactly what they were doing. But Missouri Department of Conservation has started putting out these feeders with these cages around them. And the cages just like spring shut like a trap, and they'll get an entire clan of them at one time.
Wow.
Yeah, Ghost in the Darkness. That's a good one.
That is a good movie.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas in the same movie, then you just...
I like anything with Val Kilmer in it, but to be honest.
Oh, yeah. Val Kilmer's awesome.
Oh, he's a strange man, though.
I would like to, before he lost his voice, he used to do a one-man show, traveled all over across the U.S., where he basically spent the entire evening in the character of Mark Twain. And I would love to have gotten to see that.
Yeah, that originally was... Who was it that originally did that? I can't remember his name, but I actually did. I didn't get to see it live, but I did get to see a recording of it.
Always been a big fan of Mark Twain since I was a kid. I think he was kind of one of my early inspirations. My mom would buy me these little dime paperbacks of they were like American classics. Well, I got Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn because I wanted them because they were a Missouri writer, and that's what I wanted to be. So he was kind of an influence for me when I was young, because he was a famous writer from Missouri, and that's all I ever really wanted to be.
You know what my first Mark Twain book was?
What's that?
Pudd'nhead Wilson.
That's a good one.
Very, very racist.
Yeah. Have you read what is it, Letters from the Devil or something like that? It's a political commentary.
Yeah.
And it's pretty weird. He was quite the wit. I mean, he was very political in his day. And there was a senator that he didn't get along with particularly well. And when the senator passed away, they asked him if he attended the funeral. He said, "No, I didn't attend the funeral, but I sent a nice letter saying how much I approved of it."
Yeah.
Letters from Heaven, Mama of Mushrooms. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was exactly it was called, but that one, really a bizarre read, but it was fun.
Like Jonathan Twist's A Modest Proposal. Swift. Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal. Basically, I don't know if you've ever read it, but it was a political commentary on the treatment of the Irish. And his proposal was basically to turn the Irish into cattle.
Yeah.
I mean, of course they
tried.
Yeah. I mean, it was tongue in cheek, but it's quite a read.
It is an interesting read.
Yeah.
Eric Chesterman says, wasn't there an alien movie called Signs?
Yep.
Yeah,
Mel
that was an
Gibson.
M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Mel
Pretty good
Gibson.
movie.
One of the ones I'll be
Phoenix?
watching on Halloween.
Was it Joaquin Phoenix?
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
Mhm.
was in it. Tell Merle to swing away.
Swing
Yeah.
away, Merle.
That was in parts. That was a creepy movie. That my brother was a kid when that came out, and we had that exact same baby monitor for him. And after we watched that movie, he would not. He told mom and dad to get that thing out of his room. He's like, he did not like that after that.
My favorite scene in that movie is where they've got the film footage, and it's the kids are at the birthday party, and then you see it step out and cross and you get to see the alien for the first time. And then the next thing, you've got Joaquin Phoenix in the closet and watching it, and then you've got him sitting on the bed with the kids, and they're all wearing aluminum.
Wearing their
When
Steve
my boys were little, we had a baby monitor for the youngest, for Noah and for Nick when they were both little, and we would hear voices coming from it, like down the hallway. And I was like, are we getting voices from that freaking baby monitor? It was picking up the next door neighbor's cordless phone. So we were hearing his entire conversation.
Wow.
I finally had to go ahead to replace the baby monitor with one on a different frequency. Oh, we lost Miss Neoma.
She gone.
Mama of Mushroom says I was obsessed with 13 Ghosts. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I wonder why they didn't do a series based on that, about tracking down and catching all those ghosts.
Well, and I watched a documentary about this. I didn't realize every one of those ghosts had a backstory, but you don't hear any of it in the movie.
Yeah, you could watch an entire movie based on just each ghost.
And who directed that movie? Somebody famous directed that, didn't they? But anyway, they went through and they had an entire backstory for every one of these ghosts, and Matthew Lillard did an excellent job in that movie, which he's a pretty awesome actor anyway. I mean, how he can go from somebody serious to somebody that Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. I mean, that's anybody that's got the chops to do that is a good actor. But what's his name? Tony Shalhoub, he does a pretty decent job in that.
I like him
too. But I think that's an underrated horror movie.
I think it's a great one.
Yeah. I can't remember the guy's name, the Canadian actor. He was in Teen Wolf, the series. He was what's her name's dad, Argent. He's the one that gets bifurcated by the
I know.
Glasses fall off, and the tie falls off, and that was nasty.
Just kind of falls away, and then the other half is like, yeah. Kay Bauer says, I want some of those glasses they had on 13 Ghosts. I'd almost be afraid to wear them.
Yeah, I was about to say, nah, I don't know if I want those or not.
Yeah, maybe I don't want to know.
Put those on, see the juggernaut coming at you. Oh. But actually, the jackal is the one that scares me the most.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were all pretty damn creepy. Hey, Greg's in the chat. Hey, Greg.
Greg, what's up? But I had another one just a minute ago, and it left me.
Just trying to think of some of the other ones that I'd looked up.
My phone died, or I'd get back to the list.
See The Haunting in Connecticut?
I saw the first little bit of that, and then something happened. I had to leave, and I haven't got a chance to ever go back and finish watching it. But what I saw, it looked pretty.
It was pretty creepy. I haven't seen the second one, but I heard it was pretty good.
Yes, Nimza. Poltergeist was another sort of semi based on
Well, that
events
movie
and-
was cursed. I mean, so many people from the production of that movie died.
Yeah, that
And
little
the scene
girl.
when they were digging the pool, that scene where they start having the bodies pop up. There she is. That scene in Poltergeist when they had bodies popping up, those were real skeletons.
Mm-hmm.
They did not use fake skeletons in that scene.
Come again.
They used real skeletons. They found it was cheaper to just rent some from an anatomy place.
Mm-hmm.
And they wonder why the movie's cursed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why so many
That
people
scene
are-
where that skeleton pops up and she screams. Yeah, that was an actual skeleton. It wasn't fake. It wasn't plastic.
They
probably
didn't
was an
tell the
actual scream,
actors
too.
either. The actors didn't know it till after the fact that they were working
Joe
with.
Beth
She
Williams
probably would have
No,
quit.
because that was the daughter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, I think was it Joe? I think Joe Beth Williams was in the pool, wasn't she?
I can't.
Do you know it's
I
been a
don't
long time
remember.
since I've seen that movie?
Now she got sucked up the wall.
Mhm.
I remember that, but I can't remember if it was her or the daughter that fell in the pool.
I can't
It might have
remember.
been Joe
It's been
Beth
so long
Williams.
since I've seen that.
The other place, I don't know if you mentioned it, of course, is the Pirates of the Caribbean, where they had real skeletons for a long time.
Yeah, the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were real. The original Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. Those were real skeletons.
Yeah.
What-
I think most of them have been replaced, but
Most.
yeah, I don't think all of them were ever replaced.
What he and Malcolm say? Yeah, but if the rides break down at the Pirates of the Caribbean, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
That we know of.
Maybe he was wrong on that one.
Maybe a touch. The Exorcist is based on a real event. It happened here
Yeah,
just up the
in
road in St. Louis.
Yeah. It was a boy, though, rather than a girl. Yep. Papa Bear
They
brought
got
up
a
one of my favorite
new
serial
Exorcist
killers,
movie out. I'm not even going to bother to watch. The previews looked idiotic.
which is The
It's
Exorcist.
Exorcist something. They have a new one that just came out this year.
Well, they had a
I've got no
prequel.
desire to watch it. It just looks dumb.
They had a prequel that come out at one time, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
I never saw it, so I don't know if it was. I'll tell you another movie that freaked me out. I don't know if it was ever based on anything, but Prince of Darkness was a creepy movie. And there again,
Mhm.
whether it was based on a true event or not, I mean, obviously it's based on things that are real. So I think we can throw that one in there. And that was a damn creepy movie.
I don't think it was based on anything, but Alice Cooper did a horror film back in the late 80s, early 90s called
Yes.
Monster Dog.
Yes,
Yep.
he did.
It was just an excuse to dump out as much fake blood as they could possibly dump. That movie was gory as hell, but it was like comically gory.
So I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan.
Oh, I am too.
I
That's why I
love.
watched the movie.
Yeah, and I
That's
have-
on YouTube too. I saw as I was scrolling through recommended, that was in one of my recommendeds. And I'm like, oh, Alice Cooper's Monster Dog.
I like to watch
Kind of
that every
cult
now and then just
classic.
because I love Alice Cooper. I go way back with that band. My favorite song, in fact, is "Ballad of Dwight Fry." Of
He
course,
is
Dwight
actually
Fry
a
was
really,
Springfield.
really intelligent guy too. A lot of people don't realize how smart he is.
A
He
huge
really is,
baseball
yeah.
fan too.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He has a restaurant in Phoenix, Arizona called Alice Cooperstown.
Cool.
It's full of him and the guy that threw the pitch that hit the bird, Randy
Johnson, the big
Randy
unit.
Johnson. They own the restaurant together, and it's full of baseball memorabilia.
Wow. Yeah, I got to. I had a fun story about Dennis Dunaway, the bass player for the band. He wrote a book a few years ago, and he was at the Southern Festival of Books down here in Nashville, and so we went to see him because my husband and I are both Alice Cooper fans, and he gave a really nice lecture and talked about their band days and all of that. And Dennis Dunaway and Vincent Fern, I can't ever say his last name.
I think it's Fernier.
I think yeah, I've heard it Fernier and I've heard it Fernier, and I have no idea. But anyway, they were sort of like the two best friends that ultimately started the band. And um, while we were standing in line after the speech to get his autograph, on the book, my husband pointed over and said, "Well, that lady right there, that's Cindy." Cindy? Yeah, I think it's her name. Dennis's wife, who, when you went to see the band, the toothbrush the tooth that was being chased across stage by the toothbrush and all of shit, that was her. And she was actually Neil Smith, the drummer's sister. And she ultimately married Dennis. And she was the seamstress for the band. And so we were like, it'd be cool to get her to sign the book too. So we walked over to sign the book, or ask her to sign the book. And it was like, "Oh, could you please sign this for us?" And she opens it and she says, "Oh, this is so cool. Thank you." And begins to talk to us. And like half an hour later, we're like, "Okay, well, we got to go now." And she's like walking with us. Well, and we're like, "Okay, now, well, we got to go now." It was like the opposite of, like usually the fan is the one stalking the end. And she was super, super sweet and we really enjoyed talking to her. But afterwards, we kind of both looked at each other and we're like, "Was that weird or what?" But I loved her. I'm not trying to make fun of her at all, but it was just a very weird situation. So, yeah. Yep.
I've met some, going to conventions, I've met some interesting celebrities.
Yeah.
We met some interesting not so celebrities too.
Well, my
Very
husband,
true.
having, being a journalist for, he had his own magazine, has met some very, very interesting characters. And I can tell you right now, Burt Ward, do not ask him about his costume. Ever.
That's probably not high on my list of things to do, but okay,
No.
I'll bite though. Why?
Because he will talk about his junk for an hour.
Yeah, I don't want that conversation.
Well, I've heard Burt Ward was kind of a prima donna about stuff anyway.
Actually,
Well,
super nice guy.
My favorite story about
nice.
Burt Ward is when they did the Batman Green Hornet crossover, and Burt Ward had taken like several martial arts classes and challenged Bruce Lee to a fight and woke up in the hospital.
One of the cool things he talked about was, they would get in the car and they were about to do a stunt, and Adam West would get out and the stunt man would get in, and Burt Ward would be looking around for his stunt man.
Apparently, Adam West wrecked
permanent
6 or 7 of those Batmobiles.
Yeah, and Burt Ward has a scar for every one of them.
I bet.
So,
Eric Testerman said, I trained Bruce Willis on the 240 machine gun for Tears of the Sun. That's cool, dude.
Yeah, it is. How's he doing anyway?
Bruce Willis?
Yeah.
They say he's nonverbal now.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I just saw a post about it today. He said that he's
declining fast.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. Hate to hear that about anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kay Bowers is good at Kane Hodder. That's somebody I want to meet.
I won't say anything on the air because I don't like to say anything negative, but I've met, especially about celebrities, but I've met some celebrities who were very disappointing to get to know them and get to meet them in real life. And then I've met others that were just absolute awesome guys. Like Butch Patrick that played Eddie Munster. Just an awesome dude. Super nice guy. One of the nicest people you will ever meet.
I have a signed photograph of him on my mantelpiece. I didn't get it. I don't know where it came from, but I do have a signed photograph. I think it's a Butch Patrick. Maybe it's Money. Mummy.
The thing
Billy
with me
Mummy?
though is I'm a big Friday the 13th fan. That's my favorite franchise. My favorite Friday movie is Part 7, The New Blood, which is basically Carrie meets Jason, and that's what they've so much as said. That's what that was meant to be. The girl Tina is supposed to be Carrie. She got telekinetic powers. it's tongue in cheek. It's out there, but that's why I like it. It's just extreme. But that's the first movie that Kane Hodder started playing Jason.
Yeah.
Was that movie, and that to me, that's when Jason became really, really scary. Because before that, it was like, sometimes he might be scary the way he looked, but he was never really scary the way he moved. It was just kind of like top stuff. Kane made it a study and made it a practice of his to make every single move or because he didn't have words. And that's what he said that many times. He said, I couldn't say anything. I couldn't growl. He said, so I had to make his movements relay the terror. And that, he wouldn't talk to any of his co-hosts before filming. He would go and do method growling for, 30 minutes before a scene just to get into that. And, that kind of dedication. And he played Jason more than anybody else. He played him 7 times. And to me, there will never be another Jason Voorhees other than Kane Hodder.
Nimza wants to know, says the new Munster movie from Rob Zombie. Any thoughts?
I saw it. Did not like it.
I didn't like it.
I haven't seen it. Didn't even know about it.
The Munsters. I loved the Munsters as a kid, and yeah, it was cheesy and it was hokey and it was campy, but I don't know. I just can't take any of the characters from that, any of the actors from the new version of the Munsters. I just didn't like it. And I understand it's Rob Zombie's movie. He can put anybody he wants, but it's a huge mistake casting Sherry Moon Zombie in anything because she can't act.
That's his wife. He puts her in everything he does.
Yeah, and she's terrible.
I don't.
That's just a chance for him to show off his good-looking wife, and that's all she's got going for her. Really, is her look.
I don't even think
she
she's
can't
that
act.
good looking.
Well, she's better looking than she is an actor.
That don't take much.
True, good point, but
Yeah, Charlotte Ray's better looking than she is. No, I'm sorry.
it's no different than the way he did the Halloween movies. To me, and I like Rob Zombie as a musician. I was a big fan of White Zombie, big fan of his solo stuff, but to take somebody like Michael Myers and give them motive of a bad childhood, and that's why he turned. He made him a serial killer. That's it.
Right, basically turned him into a serial killer.
Yeah, he took the mystique away from that. That's what's scary about people like Jason and Michael. I mean, Jason had motives at some point, but his killings went way beyond that. Michael may have had motives at some point, but his killings went way beyond that. Because if he truly just wanted to kill his sisters or his sister that was left over, why did all these other people have to die? If Jason truly just wanted to revenge on the camp counselors because they let him drown and they killed his mother, why did all these other people have to die? So it transcends. You can't sit there and say, oh, okay, well, this is motivation. When you give something like that motivation, it takes away all the mystique and all the spookiness and all the scariness and whatever words you want to throw at it, it takes that away from it. And making him the product of a broken home and a shitty ass, I guess he was a stepdad or a stepboy, whatever he was to her mom. And William Forsythe plays a very good maggot. I'll give him that, because he is very good in that role. He's totally believable as a POS, but you didn't need that.
Right.
To me,
I'm going to make a confession here. I don't find movies like that scary.
No, I mean,
slasher films?
I don't find anything scary about them. They're gross and they're hard to watch, but they don't frighten me in any way. They just kind of make my stomach hurt because they're gross.
Well, the sad thing about modern horror is they go more for jump scares and special effects. There's no creative writing put in it anymore. I mean, look, and I know I go back to this old Saw every once in a while, and I'll do it again. But look at the writing from the Darren McGavin Night Stalker. if those were filmed in 1972 to 1974, if you took those exact scripts with the same cast and put modern special effects to them, it would blow people's minds. Of course, you can't because most of the cast is dead. I mean, Darren McGavin and the guy that played Tony Vincenzo, and I think pretty much everybody from the original cast is gone. But look at the episode, The Spanish Moss Murders. You barely saw the creature until the end of the episode, and it was terrifying. And
Jaws.
what holds up about those, Jaws, what holds up about those is the writing. And I think, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I think that most movies have gotten so far away from good writing that they rely too much on special effects and jump scares. That's why most modern horror just is not what it used to be.
No, you're absolutely correct. I 100% agree.
That's why the original Halloween was so scary. There was hardly any blood in the original Halloween. Go back and watch that movie and watch how much blood's actually in that movie,
right,
as compared to the reboots, or not the. I guess you can't call these last 3 reboots. They're supposedly continuations of part 1, but from those, the Rob Zombie ones, and everything, go back and watch that first one. There is very, very little blood in that. John Carpenter made that movie scary by camera angles, tension, the score, because he played that movie for an audience without the score, and they didn't do anything. Then he went back and played it for another audience with the score, and that guy said, "This is one of the scariest movies ever." But people lose sight of how much, like you said, it's the writing and the cinematography, the musical accompaniment, all that stuff. People forget how much stuff like it is. And like you said, it's, let's put a lot of blood and gore and CGI in it and just make
jump scares.
And I'm probably going to make some enemies with this one, but let's Michael Bay it. Because Michael Bay thinks the answer to everything is for big explosions. I will forever hate Michael Bay for ruining the Transformers. Those are some of the best movies ever made. I grew up in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. I was a Transformers fan, and he freaking ruined my childhood. I mean,
Transformers has ruined many a toe for me because my kids were Transformer fans too.
All those movies are not cohesive. There's no continuity whatsoever in those movies, other than the Transformers themselves. There's no storyline to it, and there was so much material for him to go. But we just need bigger explosions. We need all this kind of stuff, and no, you don't need that. You need good storytelling. You need good music to go along with it. You need good camera work.
Oh, again, go back to the Night Stalker, Kolchak the Night Stalker, the episode The Zombie, where he was hunting that zombie that was killing people, the Haitian zombie. Well, he finds out how to kill it. You've got to put a ring of candles around it, and you've got to fill its mouth with salt and then sew its lips shut. That scene where he crawls in the back of that hearse with that thing, and he pours the salt, he lights the candles, and he pours the salt, and he's trying to stitch that thing's mouth shut, and the music is slowly building in the background. And that one scene where it just opens its eyes, dude, I about crapped myself when I watched that episode. Granted, I was 5, but that scene just, all it did was open its eyes, and it just the right exact moment where that was timed with the music. It was just absolutely a stunning piece of cinematography, and it was a campy late night TV show.
Kay Bowers, Megan Fox couldn't even save that.
No.
I mean,
she can't act either.
No, she can't. She was eye candy. That's all she was. And granted, that scene where she's under the hood of that car, I'll give him that one. But that was the only scene in that movie that I'll give him, because the rest of it was trash. And that's why Stephen King will always be Stephen King is not he's one of my favorite writers, but Steven Spielberg will always be one of my favorite directors, because he understands how to tell a story.
Mhm.
And that's not. It's just like you do, Da. When you're writing a book, you tell a story. You're just not throwing a bunch of words down there. You just don't throw, boom, bang, pow, and you got a gunfight, or you got, you have to build up to that. And I think John Carpenter actually learned from Steven Spielberg, and he said that that's who he modeled a lot of his work after. And Carpenter had some flops in there,
Mhm.
but Carpenter had some of the
Speaking
in
of
my opinion,
Carpenter, look at the original The Fog.
yeah.
Dude, that movie was terrifying, and you almost never saw these things other than as shapes in the fog.
But
The remake of that movie, but the
Where did he-
original was terrifying.
where did he learn that from? And and I've heard people say, well, Stephen King, or I keep saying Stephen King, Steven Spielberg wouldn't have had that if the shark hadn't messed up, the animatronic shark, blah 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 blah. Well, he didn't. The shark wasn't really written in a whole lot more number of scenes that it didn't appear in. He was going to show it more than it was actually shown in the movie, but not so much that it would have, I think, made that much of a difference. I honestly think he had that in mind to not show it.
Who said that?
Said what?
Hang on. Thank you, Karen. I'm sorry, I had to answer that question
No problem.
or that statement. Anyway,
But like I said, I think these directors nowadays, and like I said, not sorry to harp on Michael Bay, but he's the one of the world's worst at taking something and throwing a bunch of explosions and CGI at it and thinking that makes it a better movie.
The TV series Supernatural, the first 4 or 5 seasons before that became about demons and angels and all of that, but when it was just about monsters, did a better job at horror than most modern movies. And Supernatural was a kind of a campy series. It was meant to be, almost like a supernatural soap opera. It was done by the CW, and it was not intended to be this serious horror drama. But they did a better job with what they had in those first few seasons than a lot of Hollywood's doing today.
Yep, Toombs, he killed the turtles too. You're right. He Michael Bay'd that one too.
Yeah.
And again, Megan Fox couldn't help that one either.
Yeah.
she was in that one too.
Yeah, she's in the first one.
And then she was in a horror film called was it Megan's Body or something
Megan's
like that?
Body, or no,
Or Jennifer's Body?
Jennifer's Body. Yeah, there we go. Jennifer's Body.
That movie was stupid. It
Yeah.
just was dumb.
She was supposed to be a succubus, or she was a real person and got turned into a succubus.
Or whatever she was. I don't know. I
Well,
lost interest in that movie.
That's what they were going for. Let's just put it that way. I don't
You
know.
can't change a person into a demon. That makes it unbelievable right there.
According to that movie, I guess you can.
Yeah, well, they were wrong. Demons are demons.
They cast her in the movie, so
Darn it.
Yeah, that's
I'm occupying myself with
There you go, make it a little
tonight.
Hangman's Noose.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I'm really enjoying about my Dark Frontiers series, is because I'm having to do low tech horror. There's no throwing grenades or dropping bombs or any of that. They're having to do this all with cap and ball technology. So that, to me, that's a lot of fun to do that, because I've really got to ratchet things up as far as the tension goes, because these characters can't just call in an airstrike or call in a helicopter or set a landmine out. They've got to really think about what they're doing.
Yep.
well, and you talk about modern movies that don't rely on dog soldiers. We've talked about that movie before. That is a great movie, and it
Great movie.
does not rely on CGI whatsoever. It is Neil Marshall did a phenomenal job.
Practical effects are way better than
100%.
CGI. Because practical effects, even when the practical effects aren't as awesome as they could be, they still feel more realistic than CGI.
Well, and that's
if you've
one of
got
the
a
things.
4K TV, most CGI looks like shit.
And that's one of the things that Brandon Tennell was making the comment about Abominable. Is one of the things that he liked about it was, hey, the monster's a guy in a suit, and he said exactly what you said. He said, yeah, it may not look as good as it possibly could look. He said, but it looks a whole lot better than half of these cheesy CGI Bigfoot that you see in a lot of these movies. Primal that we talk about all the time. That's a great example of a practical suit that looked really good.
Abominable. That was the one that had Jeffrey Combs and Lance Henriksen, and
the one
that movie.
Half the guy's face off.
Yeah, that part where it like unhinged his jaw. That was a little cheesy. But when they killed that one with the car, and then the police showed up at the end, that last scene with the eyes in the darkness, that is one of the creepiest things.
That made that whole movie worth it. Oh, right there. It did.
Like, these guys are fixing to die. All of them. Every last one of them.
And he was talking about it because he put that scene in there, and I really didn't realize how many sets of eyes were in it the last couple of times I watched. There were
probably a dozen or more.
And how big they were.
Yep, so they didn't kill a big one.
There was a couple of them that were above the tree line that they were.
Well, they might have been up in the tree, but then again, they might have just been big.
I'll tell you what, I would watch the movie and I was like, yeah, this is all right. I'll give it a 75, 80. Nope, 110 right there.
That was the best. The payoff at that last scene was just the absolute best, because the first time I watched it, I was, and I will admit, the first time I watched the movie, Annette, the boys were pretty young. Annette and I waited till the boys went to bed, and we were cuddling up on the couch, and I'd had several drinks, and we were just watching the movie. When I watched it the first time, I barely noticed the eyes, and it wasn't until like an hour later I was like, wait a minute. And I went back and watched that last scene. I'm like, oh my God, look at all of those.
That's like the Charles Manson ending of Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
Where it's all happy-go-lucky at Harry and the Hendersons, where they all turn around, oh, y'all look at all of them, oh, they're cute. And then they turn around and it's like,
yeah.
And they did a good job on making those eyes look fairly real. Mm-hmm. And menacing at the same time.
Right.
The glow, it wasn't like over the top cheesy. It was enough to where you could think, okay, this could be a real luminescence that you would see in nature.
Tapetum lucidum.
Yeah. And
Mom of Mushrooms Brandy Copeland says, anyone ever seen Trick or Treat? That's a classic.
Yeah.
I still love the soundtrack to that movie.
Yeah, that's one of those anthologies, right?
No. It's the movie came out in the mid '80s.
Yeah, but it's like a bunch of different stories in one movie. You're thinking
of something else. The original movie Trick or Treat. There's this rock and roll star named Sammy Kerr, and he ends up getting killed, and he comes back and starts taking people out. And I don't want to give away a whole lot of it. You haven't guys seen it, you need to watch it. But the soundtrack, and I wasn't a huge fan of the band Fastaway, but I think the Fastaway just nailed it with that soundtrack. That soundtrack is just absolute kick-ass. In fact, I was just listening to that soundtrack a couple of days ago.
I'm going to have to watch that one.
Good movie.
Yep.
Robbie can't hear you, bud. His sound kicked out on him.
Sorry, I just wanted to feel like I was part of Robbie's world for a minute.
He'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Brandy's talking about the one Robbie was talking about, the one with the 4 stories tied together. I thought you were talking about the movie Trick or Treat, the rock and roll one. Also, she was talking about the one Robbie wanted.
Oh, well, we'll correct him, or we'll let him know he was correct. There was somebody mentioned, The Shining. 99% of the time I read the book and I think it's better, but I honestly liked the original Shining better than Stephen King's book. I just
Jack
thought it was a
Nicholson?
better movie. Yeah,
I would like
I-
to go visit that hotel.
I've been there.
Is it cool?
I've not been inside because when I was there, I was with my friend and her mom and dad, and apparently none of them were Stephen King fans. And I'm like, we need to go in there. And they were like, oh,
I
it's a
would have
pretty
loved to
hotel.
have gone in there.
Actually,
you,
it was
Karen.
kind of cool because where we stayed was in a really cheap hotel, but it was across you could see it. What is the name of that hotel? It's not the Stanley. But anyway, you could see it from sitting on the balcony at ours. You could, and I just sat out there and looked at it all night long, thinking, I want to go inside. We were. I mean, I drove past it, but I wasn't
My
inside.
camera is out of focus. What the
Oh,
heck
I
is wrong
see.
with my stupid camera?
I don't know.
Hold on, I gotta check my focus on this. For some reason, it's going crazy. Holy crap!
Robbie, you were right, dude.
About
She was talking about your movie.
Mm-hmm.
and it was Trick or Treat too, right?
I guess it was called Trick or Treat.
Yeah,
She was talking about the anthology movie.
Yeah, and it's an anthology. It's all in the same town or area, and it's all happening on the same night. But none of the characters are like related with it, and I don't mean related as in, but they're not. You know, you might have one character that crosses over from this anthology to this one, and then another from this one to this one, but that's as much connectivity as there is in a movie.
Yep.
But I do know the Trick or Treat that you're talking about, because that's what I was saying before my audio cut out. Is that's the one with Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne interviewing each other?
Yep, that's a great flick. I love that movie. The soundtrack is so kick-ass.
Wow. I'll have to watch it for sure now.
Mama of Mushroom says, I was just at Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Crescent Hotel and Basin Hotel. Yeah, that is a creepy place. I've been inside the Crescent. That place is pretty creepy. And when you pull up to the Crescent, you can just get this heebie-jeebie feeling about the whole building.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been over to the Basin.
We used to go to Eureka Springs a lot when I was a kid. I've only been there a couple of times as an adult.
We were just there a month or so ago.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Holy crap, we are already almost 2-hour mark. Wow, we've been burning through it tonight.
Yep.
Mama Mushroom says they have an oddities shop now. I'd have to go check that out. We need to go back down there.
Yeah, I'd like to go there again someday. It'd be one of those places that I go without my husband. He would not enjoy Eureka Springs at all.
I tried to talk Annette into spending the night at the Crescent, and she wants no part of it. She's always been very sensitive to stuff like that. Her and Noah both. Me, I refer to myself as a psychic brick. It's got to be in my face for me to even notice it. I'm not really susceptible to stuff like that.
Me neither.
But even I got the heebie-jeebies in the Crescent.
Ghost could come up, tap me on the shoulders, offer me a cigarette, and light it for me, and I still wouldn't. Thanks, dude. Cool complexion you got there. I can see right through you.
Limp Mansion in St. Louis is supposed to be haunted as hell.
I'll tell you a really cool place is Leap, which is pronounced Lep in Ireland.
Oh, Lep Castle?
They have a elemental.
Yes. I've heard the legend of Lep Castle. I would love to go there.
It's the first time I'd ever heard of an elemental. I didn't even know what one was before I heard about that.
You know, when the people that bought that were restoring it to live in it, you know what an oubliette is?
Yeah.
Well, an oubliette is
for your viewers, please explain.
For everybody that may not know what an oubliette is, in the Middle Ages, they would build these basically pits. Sometimes there were spikes at the bottom, sometimes there weren't. and it basically just means where you put things, you just forget about them.
That's exactly what the word means, forgotten place.
And they would shove people down in this oubliette, and they might even live for days, maybe even longer, depending on how healthy they were when they hit the bottom. And they would hear people up having music and smell the food, but they were suffering down the bottom of this pit. When these people went to restore Lep Castle, they hauled 8 wagon loads of human bones out of the oubliette.
Yeah. Yep, they sure did. And theirs
a lot
was
of folks died in that castle.
It's usually the case, but theirs was actually under the floor of the main dining hall. So they got to hear people eating and berry making until they died.
That's a horrible way to go.
On top of decaying bodies. That's an awful, horrible way to go. Yeah. Fascinating. That is one of my favorite places to study about. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of elemental. Never knew what one was before that.
Brandy Copeland says the underground catacombs here in St. Louis are scary AF. I didn't know anything about the underground catacombs in St. Louis. Brandy, could you send me some information on that? You can send that to my email address, daroberts@daroberts.net. Toombs or somebody of you guys put up the contact so she can get that. But if you could send me some information on that, I'd love to go up there and do some filming.
That might be a good thing for our December thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to get us all down to Joe Bald and then over into Combs Ferry. I've been waiting until I had some backup before I go into Combs Ferry.
Well, you got it coming.
Wow.
We're going to get in there. Even if we got to rent a boat to do it.
You might have to.
Might. Because they bulldozed off the entrance to the campground. That to me, that just speaks volumes.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Bulldoze off a campground, especially in an area where lakefront property is going for like $100,000 to $200,000 a lot, not an acre, a lot.
Yeah.
Why did they bulldoze off a couple hundred acres?
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and there was a working marina there too, which they basically stripped out of there.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened at Combs Ferry. And
Why
every time I try to find it, I get shut down.
Wyatt Esty says he's got access to a boat, so we may have to invite him.
Yeah, if we can get somebody with a boat, especially something that can go right up on shore, we'd need a low draft, either a pontoon boat or a bass boat. And I can get you right there on the map, but we've got to find a way to find a boat to get over there. Because without a really good high clearance 4-wheel drive, you're not going to get back in past those bulldozed areas.
Dogman Island. K Bauer said if we go to Dogman Island, let him know. Where's that? Have you ever heard of that?
I have not heard of Dogman Island.
Yes, I have heard of Dogman Island.
Where's it at?
Up in Michigan.
Up in Michigan.
I'm assuming it's the same one. Interesting story about the family had. I hope this is the same story, and I've been functioning on minimal sleep for the last, almost the entire month of October. So if I get this wrong, forgive me. But I believe what happened was the family got in a house. They were hearing screams, and they go down in the basement, and they basically found a tunnel. And as they went through the tunnel, it came out into I believe it was an island that was inhabited by dogmen. And
nice.
So, yeah.
Is that in Lake Michigan?
No.
Kay Bauer says it's Louisiana.
Oh, Louisiana.
Well, then I don't know that one. I only know about the one up in Michigan. I think it was in Michigan. Maybe it's because of where I heard it that I thought it was Michigan, but the one that I know of, the family was redoing their house, and
that would be kind of dang scary. Have a tunnel
Find
under
it.
your house that leads to an island that's inhabited by a bunch of dogmen. Okay.
And
yeah.
the tunnel, they said, was originally there for there was during the 1920s for bootleggers.
Hold the phone. Sorry. Sorry to interrupt, but Mom of Mushroom says there's a banshee in McElhaney Cemetery in Brookline, Missouri. That's where we went to film a couple weeks ago, and we caught something on camera.
Yep. Which I caught in the window, right?
Yep.
And the thing in the back of the
cemetery, the dark shape that went between the trees.
Well, now you know what you caught.
There's a banshee at McElhaney. Well, no wonder they won't let you in there after dark.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Wow.
Mama of Mushrooms, would you mind contacting me via email? Send me an email. Any information you've got on McElhaney, because if that's the case, I'm going to go back out there.
Would you mind if I did a story on it on my channel too?
I'll send you any information she sends me.
Yeah, I would love to.
The cemetery was founded right after the Civil War, and here's the weird thing: the McElhaney that founded the cemetery looks from the dates on his tombstone would have been the right age to have fought in the Battle of Wilson's Creek. The cemetery is right along Wilson's Creek, which is just a mile or so downstream. So retreating Union soldiers would have gone through that area. That area is an interesting area.
Yeah. If you go back out there, I can do a story and we can kind of do a conjunction thing where.
That sounds good. Kirst says, besides coming out at night and screaming, wailing, what does the banshee do that ghosts don't? Banshee can kill you. Banshees will attach themselves to certain families, and if it's attached to that cemetery, that may mean it means it's attached to the McElhaneys. It's a Celtic spirit, and hearing one scream can kill you, supposedly.
They're one of those spirits that have both a good side and a bad side. They can either do good for you or bad, but there's no in between.
Brandy says there's a haunted, dilapidated hospital in Ironton, Missouri. I'd like to know more about that one too. I love to hear about stuff here in the Ozarks. Mom Mushroom says there's a child that stays
really
away
interesting.
from her. I've got to go back out there and film. We're working on a mini documentary right now. In fact, we went out there and shot a couple hours worth of footage. It's probably going to be, we're cutting out a lot of the stuff where there's just literally nothing. We should have probably a half-hour mini documentary done here in the next week or so. Noah's working on it now. It's a pretty creepy place. My buddy Wes, who's Navajo, we took him out there because he's he was pretty instrumental in kind of giving us, with the areas to concentrate on. And our electronics were going nuts out there. I had 2 camera batteries go dead. My EMF meter kept turning itself off and on by itself. Weird stuff.
I'm interested in the White Lady of Wapsie Mountain.
Huh.
I'm going to write that down. Sure I am.
Penny Van says, according to my people, the UK Banshee is a harbinger of death. If you hear it, a loved one is going to die, and if you see it, you will die. There's also a version of the Banshee called the Ban-Nai, I believe it is, the washerwoman. If you see her, she's usually washing clothes near a body of water, and she's a harbinger of death. And it's usually whoever's clothes she's washing is going to be the one that dies.
And what about the combing of the hair? Is that the Banshee or?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I need to refresh myself on lore.
That's Cherokee, I believe. Because we did a show about something about that, and I don't remember which one it is, but I do remember the thing about combing the hair, but I can't remember what that one's called now.
Well, there's also
Wes is in the chat. Yeah, the EMF detector was turning itself off and on after I showed him how to use it. I'm sorry, Naomi, go ahead.
The Banshee, it also has a hair thing going on.
But there
And
is a Native American, some type of witch or something like that does that. And I can't remember the name of that. My phone's dead, or I'd pull it up on my page. That's gonna drive me crazy.
my stomach just made an awful growly sound.
Noah and Wes, you guys are listening. I know you're both in the chat. Wes, let me know what days you're off this week. I wouldn't mind going back out there now that we have some new knowledge of the area. Eric says he wants to go with us. All right, man. We'll see what we can get worked out with everybody's schedule. But if there's a Banshee out there, yeah, I want to see if I can catch something on camera. And the weird thing was, and we kind of dismissed this as something going on at the battlefield, which they do stuff over there all the time. So odds are really good that that's what it was, that there was some sort of demonstration going on at the national battlefield. But when we were approaching the cemetery, we could hear cannon fire and muskets. It was probably something going on over at the battlefield, but it was just really weird. Kind of set the mood.
Okay, this says that a Banshee is often depicted as combing her hair. And she I can't say Irish words. I'm not even going to try. So we'll just stop it right
we need
there.
Noah for that. Noah speaks far more Gaelic than I do. Well, I only speak a little Gaelic. Noah's very good at it.
Well, he
took his Celtic heritage a lot more seriously than I did.
I can say basically a few names and that's about it.
David Neal. I don't know if this is about the cemetery, but that's kind of, I think, what we were talking about. He says, the story I know, she was a newlywed and her husband were trying to beat the storm, and the wagon crashed. She was tossed from the wagon while the husband had his head taken off by a branch. The other version is the same, but it's her and her child, and the child ended up missing. So her spirit roams the mountain looking for the child.
That's the White Lady of Wapsie Mountain story.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mama of Mushroom sent you a message right up before that. Said she's local and said she might could bring the Banshee out, but she could definitely bring the child out. So
wow.
Yeah, definitely reach out to me, Mama of Mushrooms. Reach out to me through my email. Maybe we could all meet out there and go check that out. Because I know there's more. I knew there was more going on out there. Because Noah and I, the first time him and I went out there by ourselves, and we took a whole bunch of pictures. We shot a promo video for one of the shows, but there was an area over between two trees next to the founders' graves, and we took 4 pictures of that area. And we didn't see this at the time. It wasn't until later that Noah found them when he was going through the photos on the computer. But there is a shadow person, but between those 2 trees, and in 4 pictures taken a few seconds apart. 3 of them one of them was taken on the Canon DSLR. The other 3 were taken on my phone. In those 4 pictures that were just taken in a few seconds apart, not only does it change positions 3 times, in the 4th one, it's gone completely. So it wasn't a trick of the light. We weren't moving. We were in the same spot taking pictures. Whatever was there clearly moved between 2 trees and was moving enough that it disappeared entirely.
Yeah, we lost Naomi again.
Yeah, she's having trouble with the battery on her laptop. Hey, while we're waiting on her, why don't we hear a word from Doc?
Let's hear from the little fella.
Let's hear a little word from Dark Angel Medical. Tomb, if you would be so kind as to put up Dark Angel's information.
Hey, everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Doc Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with D.A. Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
Miss Naoma, while we're waiting on you, we thought we'd play one of our affiliates. And folks, if you go to darkangelmedical.com and purchase anything, don't forget to use discount code Cryptid25 for 25% off your order.
Cool.
Anyway, what were you saying right before you disappeared?
Forgot.
As bad as I am.
Squirrel. What was I saying?
Mama of Mushroom says, DA, if you've been down to Wolfman Road in Pleasant Hope, I have not. I would love to, if you know a lot of these local legends like that, I'm still looking for local legends like that to profile. I would love to hear about any of that stuff.
Hey, save some for December when we're all together.
Dude, we find some of these places, we'll definitely hit them again. Open Coloring Book says, DA, if you find a comb, don't pick it up. Don't worry, I don't need it. I always keep one for my beard, and that's separate.
I do. I'm having to wear a bandana these days because I've developed a gamer's divot.
We don't need no stinking combs.
That's right. Man, I am like super excited about the Banshee thing. Give me just a second. I know we kind of got derailed from talking about horror films, and that's okay. I don't mind that a bit. I gotta pull this up if this thing will open. My computer's acting funny.
Wouldn't be one of our shows if we didn't have a computer acting funny.
That's a fact.
Oh, excuse me. I've made a nasty belching sound. I didn't even bother.
And now, Miss Ann.
Oh.
I'm trying to find one of those pictures of that shadow thing we captured in McElhaney. Give me just a second. I know I've got it.
So I says to Mabel, and then Mabel says, 2 peanuts were walking down the street and one of them was assaulted. When does a regular joke become a dad joke?
I don't know. When?
When it becomes apparent. Yep. Help me out here, guys.
Hold on. Robbie?
Did we talk about Scallywag?
Yeah, go ahead and say something about Scallywag. I'll put up the Scallywag thing while I'm looking for these pictures.
All right. Another one of our sponsors, Scallywag Tactical. Another veteran-owned small business that we support. If you're a fan of the books and you've read the books, you'll see the Privateer. You'll see the Jolly Roger. You'll see the Bounty, the Gunner's Mate, the Boarding Axe. There's a lot of Scallywag's blades make it into DA's books, and there's a reason for that. We believe in the product. It's some of the best store-bought knives that you can buy. I mean, I've had them all: Kershaw, Spyderco, Gerber, Schrade, you name it. I've had it. I'm a knife freak. My dad used to confiscate knives from me, and he said that one weekend of confiscating knives from me, and he could have opened his own cutlery store. That's how many knives I used to have. So I know a thing or two about knives. And for the money, you're not going to get a better knife anywhere than one of these knives from Scallywag. This was one of the blemish blades. That's $15. It retails for $45. So even at $45 full price, I dare you to go anywhere and find a knife that you're going to pay $45 for that's going to stand up to this. You're not going to. This knife will compete with any of them big $200 and $300 knives that I named. I've had this knife over a year and it's still razor sharp. It's still the same knife that fell out of my hand when I was on camera in Florida and cut my finger and I bled for a solid hour and a half. So
You guys,
are the two goofballs that have cut ourselves on camera with these knives. I don't know which one of us was dumber, me for dropping it and trying to catch it, or DA for trying to show how sharp it was by shaving a hair off his arm. So you decide which one of us was dumber. I personally think mine was, because you drop a knife blade, you're supposed to let it hit the ground, but I didn't want my nice knife to hit the ground, so I tried to catch it, and I caught the blade. So go ahead and say it, Miss Naomi.
all I'm saying is you guys always do your ads backwards. First, you need to do Scallywag, then you need to do
I'll bring
Dark
Wing.
Dark.
I bring it around. I always bring it around because I always say, now when you go get your Scallywag tactical knife, don't forget to go get your Dark Angel medical kit, because you're going to need it, because these knives will cut you 3 ways: long, deep, and continuous. So when inevitably you do pull a Robbie or a DA, if you're like us, you're going to pull it. Then you got your Dark Angel medical kit there to take care of it. If you get your ouch pouch, or you get your EDC, or you get your dark, whatever you get, you'll have it there to take care of your long, deep, or continuous cut that you just made on yourself.
Those pictures must be on my external hard drive. I can't find them on my hard drive. So, I was going to show some of those, but I know Noah's got them, but I'll have to show them at another time.
So, in conclusion, and DA just took it down, but head on over to Scallywag Tactical, check out the blemish blades, check out the other blades they've got. Put in code DA Roberts 10 at checkout and get yourself an extra 10% off. That stacks up with the discounts you get on the blemish blades, and you'll get yourselves a good knife to go along with your Dark Angel medical kit that you've got that protects you from when you pull a DA or a Robbie.
There you go.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Uh-huh.
I'm like super stoked about the possibility of there being a banshee out there at that cemetery.
Me too. Oh, well, gentlemen, you know me, my eyes are starting to burn and itch. I'm going to have to say good evening to you. And
well, thank you so much. Well, as soon as I get information more about McElhaney, I'll forward it to you, because I think it'd be a really cool story for you to do as well. And then, we get out there and get some more filming done. And if we can draw something out and get it on camera, then we'll do a combined thing and talk about it.
that sounds like fun.
So I think that'd be a hoot and a half.
Definitely.
All right. Well, we'll let you head for bed then, Miss Naomi. We got one more affiliate thing, and then we'll do our toast.
All right. Good night, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
Anytime. You're always welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Good night. And our other affiliate
is the tactical midget himself.
Yeah, the Tactical Smurf. We are also an affiliated program with BrockBlades.com. Let me pull that down now that there's just the two of us. Ken Brock makes custom blades. He doesn't make mass-produced blades like Scallywag. And Scallywag blades, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic blades. But if you buy 2 gunner's mates, they're identical. No 2 blades that Ken makes are identical, because they're all handmade in the shop behind his house. And if you know anybody that's a first responder, or hunter or fisherman, outdoorsman, camping, the gift of a custom-made knife is something that'll be treasured. And these are not knives that are made to be hung on a wall and displayed. These are functional. These are very sharp and very well put together. Ken makes a hell of a good blade. And he's a first responder. He's career law enforcement. So we were happy to support our first responders and our veterans. And that's why we chose the 3 that we did choose. But you can go to brockblades.com and you can select the type of blade you want to order. You can select the type of handle you want to use. You can select color. There's a lot of options where you can really customize these knives. There are knives that are currently available that can be just purchased directly off the website, or you can custom order a knife. But you can do all of that at brockblades.com. And on checkout, if you use the discount code Cryptid10, you'll get 10% off your entire order. Or if you do a custom blade in the description, make sure you mention that you heard about brockblades.com here on DAX Machina, and he'll make certain you get your 10% off your entire order.
And that's all he got to say about that.
That's right. Let me get back over to the chat because I notice it's starting to pick up a little bit there. Yeah, great job on all the mods tonight. You guys did a great job. Thank you guys so much. Man, I am like super excited about learning more about McElhaney. I knew there was something weird about that place.
Well, like I said, you got to save someplace for me and Doc and Steve to go to.
Dude, this is Missouri. We are never going to run out of places. If nothing else, we'll go down to Booger County and see if we can find the last place the Ozarks Howler was seen. And I ain't doing that unarmed. You can bet your ass on that.
And Penny, to answer your question, my phone's dead, so I couldn't answer it in typing. But the movie we were talking about earlier, Backcountry, that's on YouTube and I believe Netflix. Really good movie about pretty much a crazy black bear that's trying to kill everybody. So that'd be a good one. I would suggest watching that one.
Noah said, check your email. I sent the cemetery pics. Which email? Because it's not in my DA Roberts at DA Roberts. Yeah, don't post the other one here, the other email, but I'll check the other one I know you've got. Yep, there they are. Okay, sent them, but it's not letting me access them. We'll just have to show them another time. I'm gonna have to jump through some hoops to get these downloaded. But we'll show those at another time. Mama of Mushrooms says south of Y Bridge in Galena, recent Ozark Howler sighting. Yeah, that's that area down around Galena. That's right there. Blunk Road is why I chose the name of that the Third Lakeview Man, Beast of Blunk Road, because of the Howler sighting down there. That is a pretty wild and woolly area. I want to get back down there too. I know it says I have to have permission to download them, so I sent in. Edward Kung Fu says, "Hey DA, how's Doc and Steve doing?" Steve's good. Steve's at work. Doc took the evening off to spend time with Angie, so it was just me and Robbie tonight. Miss Naoma jumped in with us.
She got tired of watching us struggle and decided to jump in and help us.
Yeah. Ronald says, "What's the difference between a ghost, a phantom, and a shadow walker?" Paranormal is not my strong suit, but I think shadow walker is probably more like a shadow person. We're not entirely certain what those are.
That'd probably be more of a question for William to answer if he was in the chat tonight.
Right. I think that would be something, something who knows more about the supernatural than I do. We're more cryptid guys than we are ghost guys, but I'm starting to really get in there. Oh, Roxanne Delgado says Galena, Kansas. There was No, she's asking. No, Galena, Missouri. There's a little town called Galena just south of Springfield, about 30 miles. It's down in Stone County. It's actually the county seat of Stone County. That's a pretty woolly area. Mama of Mushroom says, I guess I shouldn't say sighting, definitely hearing. Yeah, people still hear the howler, like routinely. And there were some folks down by Branson who caught one, what they think is one on a trail cam. Really kind of interesting pictures. I'm going to see if I can get some copies of those pictures to do a show about it. But I want to do another show on the howler here before not too long. My buddies that run the Horror Chronicles up out of Rolla, Missouri, there was a howler sighting just like half a mile from one of their houses. So I want to get up there with them. We're going to do some filming around their area, and hopefully we can catch something on camera. Penny Van says Branson has all odd going on. Yeah, Branson and Joplin got weird stuff, but I'm really interested in hearing about this Wolfman Road or Werewolf Road down by was that, did they say Bolivar, Pleasant Hope? Pleasant Hope.
Pleasant Hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's something weird down by Pleasant Hope, I would definitely take a drive down there and see if I can find it. Y'all, if you've got, I'm going to put the contact up again. If you know any legends like that in the Ozarks, I would definitely like to check them out. I definitely want to know more about the Banshee that's attached to McElhaney Cemetery. And David Neal says, I hope you do another Howler show. We probably will be before too awful long. There's a lot more going on with the Howler. It seems to be making, not necessarily, I don't know if you really say it's making a comeback or if more people are just hearing it. But it's definitely one of the creepier of the Ozarks legends. Allegedly, Daniel Boone shot and killed one up near Cuba, Missouri. Mama Mushroom says down by Pleasant Hope. Well, yeah, definitely. Please send me, any information you've got on that. Just write up whatever you got or copy and paste any information you have. Send it to my email at daroberts@daroberts.net. Yeah, I would love to start digging into some of those stories, and those definitely shows there. And Robbie and Doc are going to be out this way in December. And, if nothing else, and come December when there's no ticks and skeeters out, we might get out and about with some camera equipment and a few pew-pews and some bright flashlights and see what we can find.
Drones.
Yep, we definitely have the drones up in the air.
Okay, Bowers, I definitely agree with that. Wrong Turn, that's another one that I like the movie, but it's another one of those that is unsettling because of how real it could be. Of course, that movie would have ended halfway through with me because when that guy shot when the mutant shot the sheriff through the head with the arrow and he fell down and his Glock was laying right there and the guy was laying under the truck, the movie would have been over at that point because I'd have grabbed that Glock, and when I come out from underneath that truck, I'd have put it to the base of his skull and rearranged the insides of his head.
There's a lot of movies like that would ended much differently if the people had been armed.
But see, that's the, and I don't know if that's a Hollywood mentality, but you got this guy who they're trying to portray as the protagonist and the hero, the savior, and the officer gets dropped right there, and he's got a gun right there. And what does he do? He beats feet out from underneath the truck and goes and hides without taking the gun.
I would have definitely taken the gun and tried to get the extra magazines off his belt.
Yeah, I mean, any normal person would have done that. But that's, I guess that gets into that suspension of disbelief. You got to believe somebody's stupid enough to be in a situation like that and that happening and sit there and look at that Glock sitting right there and say, I think I'm going to go that way.
Well, the other trope, we're being chased by a psychopathic serial killer. Let's split up.
Yeah. You go this way. I'll go that way.
Arkansas.
Yes, cognitive rearrangement. I love that term.
Yeah. Arkansas Hog Hunter Dan says, yeah, sometimes the howler gets down this way south of Table Rock Lake in Carroll and Boone counties. The howler has been sighted pretty much all throughout the Ozarks. There's been sightings as far north as just outside of St. Louis in the Mark Twain National Forest, all the way down to East Texas. So the howler has been seen all throughout the Mark Twain National Forest, the Ozark National Forest, and even over in the Ouachitas.
There's a lot of haunted places down here too.
Yeah. Well, that town I used to be a patrol officer in, out in Walnut Grove, there are mass pits of bodies out there from the cholera outbreak.
Let's see, top 10 most haunted states in the U.S. Let's see what they say. Number 1 is Texas. Number 2 is Maine. 3 is Florida. I guess Florida and Vermont are tied because it says 3 on both. Yeah, they're tied. North Dakota, number 5. South Dakota, number 6. Number 7, West Virginia. Number 8, Kentucky. Number 9, Montana. Number 10, Iowa. That's, according to Forbes, that's the top 10 most haunted states in the United States. Who knows how?
Who knows how accurate that is?
Yeah.
But
according to Forbes, that's the top.
We're coming up on a 2.5 hour mark. We're going to start winding things down and get ready to call it a night. Before we do, I want to remind everybody about the 22 a Day Foundation and the Valhalla Project. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. So that's 22 too many. Reach out to your veteran friends, active and retired or separated from service. Veterans, veterans of all stripes. No, doesn't matter what branch. Anyone that's worn the uniform, and also your first responder friends as well, because you never know when that text you send them might just be what pulls them back off the edge for the day, because we lose way too many, and we owe these men and women everything. They're the reason we're free, and they're the reasons we're safe. So reach out to your veteran and your first responder friends and let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care about them, because we are losing way too many to suicide every day. And that's something that's very near and dear to my heart, that we keep that in mind and reach out to those that we care about. But in closing, we've been doing a toast here lately, and it's something I want to continue. It's kind of becoming a tradition here, and I'm gonna keep right on going. But there's an old Irish song called "The Parting Glass," and when you listen to the lyrics, it's talking primarily about, lifting a glass as he's leaving the bar at the end of the night. But when you really read the lyrics and listen to the song, it's more of a metaphor. It's talking about those we've lost. It's, raising a glass to those who can't anymore. And we've all lost people, and we will continue to do so. It's one of the inevitabilities of life. The older we get, the more loved ones we will lose. And, unfortunately, 2023 has not been a kind year for any of us. We've all had some pretty serious losses this year. But we're still optimistic. We're still hanging out. We're still swinging, and we're still here. And we're here for each other, and we're here for y'all. And we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We're so happy to have you guys as part of the family here at DAX Machina. We're proud that you guys are part of the DAX Machina Nation. But the toast is this, and we'll wrap it up with this. Everybody got a glass of something. The toast says, "But since it fell unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.